Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast here at MODEX 2022. In the booth, joining me is Josh Cloer, and he is now the Director of Sales at Mujin. And Mujin we've had on the show previously. One of Josh's colleagues came on and talked to us from the technical side of things. And Josh is going to tell us a little bit more about Mujin and kind of what they're doing here at MODEX as well, which, as my understanding, is their second show here in North America. So Josh, first, welcome to the booth. How you doing?
Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here. Really excited to be at MODEX. Really kind of a little bit of a coming out party for us here. We've got a lot of technology to show.
Definitely, and obviously, we've spoken before, but in a different setting a little bit for you, definitely. But now you're with Mujin, and like you said, it's a kind of a coming out party for you guys. You guys are newer to North America, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
We've been in North America less than a year. We're actually, not your typical startup. We've been around for over a decade, primarily in Japan. We have our headquarters in Tokyo.
Okay.
And we have about 200 people globally, but really just launched into the U.S. market about middle of last year. So we're actually within a full year already have won some of our first projects, deployed some of our first projects, and have a lot to offer to a lot of warehouses out there.
All right, so a lot of room to grow, obviously, in here at MODEX. This is the place to be. I mean, it's pretty busy.
It's
in comparison, right, to what we know in the past couple of years. So talk to us a little bit about Mujin and what it is that you guys actually do, and what are these offerings that you're bringing to North America.
Sure. So Mujin is a robotics technology company. So we have our main product is the MujinController. Which is really a new way of doing robotics, of deploying robotics. So it's a physical controller that can manage, the safety of a robotic cell and has a nice, easy-to-use pendant. But really what's novel about it is the software behind the scenes. So a different way, as I mentioned. So really we are modeling the space and doing real-time motion planning. So you're not programming the robot. You're actually telling the robot about the scene, giving it high-level tasks, and then using some advanced sensing to find targets, confirm what you're doing, so 3D vision, 2D vision, force torque sensing, vacuum sensing, really bringing all of these data points into the scene, the model around the robot, to essentially create like this digital twin environment, which then opens up, gives this new capability for robotics to manage variability. So robotics are typically good at going from point A to point B over and over and over again, very reliably and very repeatably. We now can account for some of the variability that you see within a warehouse. So bringing applications like mixed case palletizing, mixed case depalletizing, you really need vision. You need to understand what does that pallet look like, so that then you can pick it and put it on a conveyor, or take it from a conveyor and pack it on a pallet. So really allowing for robots to be proliferated throughout the warehouse.
Okay, very interesting. And I know you mentioned it's a robot controller, right? So the offering from Mujin is actually the controller itself. It's not necessarily the robot itself?
We usually create like this technology package of the controller and an advanced gripper. We create grippers as well. So we have standard solutions for some of the applications that we do, like palletizing, depalletizing, for instance. And then we package that with like a 3D vision technology as well. And all of this, every piece that is required like around the robot, that's what we're creating, and we're partnering with system integrator companies to build more end-to-end solutions. So what's bringing the stuff into the cell, what's taking it out, conveyor, automatic vehicle, autonomous vehicles, autonomous storage and retrieval systems, partnering with system integrator companies to build all of that into a full solution.
Got it. Very interesting. And so obviously, I think a big part of robotics and focus, as you mentioned, has been on the point A to point B, and also the picking aspect too. But you're talking a lot about the palletizing, depalletizing aspect. So why has that kind of been the point that you guys are looking to maybe initially tackle for the operation?
Well, it's really been a difficult application in the past. So there's a lot of robotics companies and integrator companies out there that can deploy like end-of-line palletizing because they're getting cases that are fixtured on a conveyor and they're picking them and packing them in the exact same way every time to build a pallet. But what happens when there's a lot of different SKUs and cases that you need to manage? Well, it becomes a pretty large engineering effort where you have to create a lot of recipes. We actually have algorithms to build out those pack formations automatically. So you no longer need to sit there and figure out, okay, for this case, what does the pallet look like? We can do that on the fly. So for palletizing, that's a huge value. The other piece is being able to build mixed case pallets, so different cases. Maybe you're a retail company and you're at a distribution center and you want to send a mixed case pallet to a store. That's a difficult application because usually it has to come in the right sequence so that you can build the pack the right way so it doesn't fall.
Where to put it,
Exactly. So we've found that there's a lot of companies out there that are building mixed case pallets with humans today, and there's guys at the end of the line grabbing cases and throwing them off to the side to like buffer them until they can kind of visualize, okay, what is this pallet going to look like?
Exactly, right.
And then building it up on the pallet, once they kind of have everything
like Tetris,
in front of them.
right?
Exactly. They're playing a little game of Tetris. So we can go all the way from the spectrum of, we're going to tell you what order to send all the cases, and you're going to send them in the exact sequence, and we're going to pick them up and build this mixed case pallet. Or all the way on the other one, we have no idea what's coming. We're going to use vision to look at the box, figure out what it is, put it off to the side the same way that the human does today, and then once you get enough cases to figure out what that pallet should look like, you can then build the pallet with the robot. So really, a new feature that allows you to kind of drop in, in a scenario where there's not upstream sequencing, drop in a palletizer robot to handle mixed case scenarios. So that's a big feature that we're showing here at the show for palletizing.
Yeah, that's very cool. So the robot itself, I'm curious about this, where it drops them off to the side as the buffer, right? I mean, just like a human would do, as you said. So I mean, how does the robot know, like, okay, now let me look at my buffer and see if I can fit something in here? How does it know that? I mean, it's pretty intelligent.
That's the power of the controller. So that is really not just like, the model's not just like a 3D CAD representation of the environment, but it's tracking all of this state information. So it knows where it is because it picked it up and dropped it off. And in the scene, you can actually see the digital twin in real time. You will see the cases that we picked up in the scene exactly where they are.
Oh, wow.
So we know where we put it, so we can go back and pick it up later.
Very interesting and incredibly smart as well for the robot. I mean, because a lot of times I think we think of the robot thinks in black and white, basically. This goes here, it just goes here, and that's it. But now it's like thinking again. It's getting smarter. So it's really pretty incredible. So you mentioned that's one of the cases that you're showing here at MODEX, but I think you said you had about 4 use cases you were showing. So talk to us a little bit about the other ones you have.
Sure. Our booth is actually a spectacle.
Spectacle. Okay.
There are 4 different robot brands. So we work with all of the major brands. So we have a Fanuc, we have a Yaskawa Motoman, we have a Kawasaki, we have a Mitsubishi, all in our booth, all powered by the MujinController and doing different tasks. And then we have essentially inbound and outbound for the case, for cases on one side. So mixed case depalletizing is feeding into mixed case palletizing. And then we have one of our partner organizations, MHS, is a systems integrator partner for us. And they're doing an autonomous vehicle in our booth, and they're essentially delivering the mixed case pallet back to the depal to start that full sequence over again.
Interesting.
And then the other side of the booth, there's a lot in our booth.
Well, you said it's a spectacle.
It's a spectacle. There's also a mezzanine, so you can overlook. So please come on by and come check out the mezzanine, the robot observation deck is what we're calling it. And so on the other end is a micro-fulfillment solution, where we have autonomous vehicles, like bringing single SKU totes, like plastic containers, to a robot that can pick different size containers and then put it onto one of our other partners, Tompkins Robotics, those smaller tabletop robots, that's then bringing it to a piece picking cell to build from single SKU totes into a mixed order, and then dropping it down to like what would be packaging. So we've got the case side of the warehouse, and we've got like the each or the piece side of the warehouse, both in our booth.
Very interesting. And you mentioned something there about the micro fulfillment, right, solution. So micro fulfillment is something I'm very interested in this year, actually. So with that being said, I mean, when you look at micro fulfillment, obviously, space is a constraint sometimes, hence the micro, right? So how do you navigate being able to get, because you mentioned about maybe like 3 different robots in that solution there. So how do you navigate and making sure that the robots can maneuver in that tight space and still get enough efficiency and maximization of the space utilization there?
Yeah, that's a great question. And normally with traditional robotics, you would have to build all of this and then like explicitly code, where is the robot going to go and what are all of the parameters around the movements to optimize the movements within a smaller space. But with our design, with the MujinController, you're just modeling the space, and then it determines with like forward inverse kinematics, understanding how the robots maneuver. It will do the real-time motion planning to decide what's the most optimal grasp point, what's the most optimal trajectory, what's the most optimal release point. It will figure out all of the possible scenarios and pick the best one. So optimizing that space with the robot arm side is actually something that we do very well.
Right.
And then we work with partners typically to figure out what's the best overall solution, what's the best layout when you combine all of these technologies. We have a lot of expertise there, but we rely on our system integrator partners for their technology pieces. How do those fit within the robot cell?
Very interesting. Yeah. I was curious about that because there's obviously with micro fulfillment, if you can utilize automation and robotics, you can maximize your efficiency and output, but then at the same time you're tight on space typically, the micro. So I was curious about that. Now, with this being said, I mean, there's a lot of different applications for the controller that you guys are putting out to be utilized for, which you mentioned here, and I'm sure there's more to come too. So, when a company is looking, as I'm sure a lot of people here at MODEX are doing, to either bring robotics and automation into their operation for the first time, or maybe take the next step from a simple, point A to point B, which we referenced earlier. How do they know kind of when they're at this point of like starting to look at something like a depalletizer or palletizer type of automation, kind of taking it to almost like that next level in their automation journey?
Yeah, it's a good question. When do you start? When do you know when to start? I would say that most companies out there are experiencing problems filling roles and retaining labor.
Yeah.
And I think that has driven a lot to think about automation. So a lot are asking this question.
Yeah.
And I would say, it depends on your situation, obviously.
Okay.
But generally, to get a payback on, a larger full end-to-end solution, you really need to be running a couple shifts, right? And have some volume to your operation. But generally, if you're running 2 shifts, a system like this has a quick payback. It's within a couple of years. So usually, especially with the solutions that we've created that are more drop-in replacements of existing scenarios. Yeah. If you're running 2 shifts, we can get you a payback within a couple of years. So that's probably what you're looking for is are you running 2 shifts and do you have enough volume to where you need someone constantly doing that operation for that long?
Okay, interesting, and that's fair. And so now, when you bring this automation in, and obviously you mentioned something that I think we're all experiencing lately is not lately, but for quite some time now, is the labor shortage, right? So you said you have a couple implementations already in process and already in place. So are you seeing that for these operations that are bringing in the applications that you guys are putting together for them, is it really helping them to address this issue and I guess reducing some of the stress of trying to fill roles in those spots?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think, and also transform the way that they've done their operations. I would say. Yeah. So most of the implementations that we have today are full end-to-end solutions combining robotic arm technology with different mobile robotics technologies, and even some pretty novel conveyor technology as well. But really, that's both changing the way that they work and making them more efficient and getting them ready for more demand, because that's another piece that's been happening over the last couple of years. Is there's a huge demand, and getting them more prepared to fill that demand. So I would say that's working with some of the more the newer, more advanced technologies in the mobile robotics space, we think robot arms and mobile robots work really well together and have this nice effect when they're together, to where you can actually reduce the overall labor that you need to do an operation. So we make that simple. We can actually we're hardware agnostic there as well. We can work with every mobile robot company, and what we don't do the navigation per se or deployments. We work with partners for that, but we manage those interactions. How does it come into the robot work cell? How does it go away from the robot work cell? We can manage all of that.
Very interesting, and I think it's a great thing that we can start to get to this point where the robots can start to work together, because you have a lot of times, I think, as robots were coming into this space and actually getting reception and people were adopting them, it was kind of like a lot of the robotics companies were just focused on one aspect of the operation, and now we're getting to this point where it's like, I need every aspect of the operation, right? So it's good that we're able to bring these things, like you guys are able to bring these controllers that allows these things to happen and interact, like you said, the robotic arm with the mobile robots as well. So very interesting stuff. And if people want to find out more information about Mujin, how can they do that? You guys are brand new, so we want to get out there, right?
Absolutely. I'd say go to our website. That's the best place to find us, and that's Mujin, MUJIN -corp.com.
Okay, great. And Mujin, I got to ask, does it have any kind of meaning at all?
Yeah, it does. It's a Japanese word, and I would say there's a couple of ways to translate it to English, but essentially it in some regard it means automation itself. If you directly translated something like no person, but it has this other way of translating it to be like limitless. So from what I understand, it's the intent is being able to automate is kind of the general theme, and that's a big vision for us, is to really help companies and help people at the same time. So helping people not have to do some of these more laborious jobs and hurt themselves over their career because they're just moving thousands of pounds of boxes a day. So we want to get humans in more creative tasks. That's a big value driver for us.
Very interesting, and I love the translation there, and I think the mission too that you just mentioned is incredible as well. I think that's the way to go. I mean, like you said, people can be lifting thousands of pounds over certain periods of time, and it wears on you, and it's not good over time. So we want to make them in a better position and help them to be more successful in life and enjoy their life a little more too, right, without pain. So it's definitely a good thing. So Josh, thank you so much for coming by the booth, and I'll see you on the robot observation deck, right?
Come on over. Thanks for having me, Kevin.
All right, thanks so much, Josh, and we'll put more information about Mujin at thenewwarehouse.com, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
Same to you.